Welcome to our guide on how to get good at Gibraltar. Let's get started. Gibraltar is primarily defined by his fucking enormous hitbox and abilities that heavily favor a stationary playstyle. Only players who are able to mitigate his weaknesses will be able to properly abuse his otherwise powerful abilities. The most impressive of which is his bombardment. Which can be called down with the simple throw of a location marker. After a short delay, the sky will open up an impressive volley of large explosions in what is possibly the most powerful ability in the entire game. This ability is very similar to the one employed by Bangalore, only much better. To most effectively employ this light bulb of death, players should use this in an outdoors environment, and ideally, when another squad is distracted and entrenched. A simple roof will hard counter this ability, and a squad that's under no pressure will always be able to escape its damage. When this activates, you want to make yourself more distracting than a 40-year-old with an eyebrow piercing, and watch as the other players get punched from above by a volley of explosions. However, this shit doesn't necessarily need to be used to get kills, and can instead be used as a distraction or an improvised layer of smoke. Checking areas you suspect of being occupied is a perfectly acceptable way of employing this ability. Even just shelling the shit out of a downed or dead teammate is a good way to give yourself some breathing room. It should be mentioned that calling down a bombardment will deal damage to yourself, but your teammates will not be harmed. Although, standing inside a death zone will still greatly impair their movement and turn their ability to see to near Stevie Wonder levels. Gibraltar's regular ability is his Winston Bubble, which protects your squad from any incoming damage, although it also protects enemy squads from your own bullets, so as such, the bubble should be used primarily as a defensive tool. In fact, in many cases, this shit will become a liability, as deploying it will signal your location to everyone in sight and completely destroy any stealth opportunities you could have otherwise had. Although, that's not to say this doesn't have its uses. If you're engaged in a particularly scrappy and short-range fight, throwing this down and calling in an airstrike on top of you will both keep you and your team safe, but also provide some much needed breathing room and time to recover in the middle of an engagement. Because of the unlikelihood of an enemy player trying to enter your bubble during this time, players should use this as an opportunity to revive fallen squad members, as the barrage will last for roughly the same amount of time as the animation will take to play out. Hesitating in this small window of safety can be devastating once the blanket of security is removed. Overall, the bubble should be used at any time when your team will have even the slightest advantage from its deployment. Even just throwing it down to run away is a good use, even if it only protects for a few seconds. With an uptime of 15 seconds and a cooldown of 20, it's really underestimated how often your team can abuse this luxury. With this all said, Gibraltar is still a mighty thick boy, with some estimates putting his hitbox size 140% larger than Wraith. Although, to compensate for this disadvantage, Gibraltar is equipped with a gun shield that is deployed whenever he aims down his sights. This will shield a large portion of his upper body, meaning that players who are able to hide his lower half will be able to peek enemies without becoming exposed to damage. Players who are able to use tight peeking angles will quickly turn his greatest weakness into a clear strength. Although, the shield is still considered relatively flimsy and will break after only a few shots. In close range, many players might still find a more mobile hip-fire technique to be more effective. In terms of synergy, Gibraltar is best suited with mobility heroes, as many of his advantages are only effective if he is able to hunker down in a specific location. Lifeline is also an excellent choice, as the bubble is able to provide a safe area for them to revive or heal whenever necessary. Like always, Lifeline will have priority when it comes to ultimate accelerant use, but considering the insane power of the bombardment, it may be very worth consuming a few in between fights. But with a charge time of 4.5 minutes at base, players can expect to use this shit once every new circle. So keep that in mind when making these decisions. So enjoy playing Gibraltar, the legend who understands that their enormous body is only a distraction from the impending devastation from above.
What can I say?